They say if you lie to yourself long enough, eventually it stops sounding like a lie. But I knew what I was doing. I knew, even in the beginning. I wasn't deluded. I wasn't brainwashed. I just didn't care enough to stop. Not until the damage had already been done. I'm 52 now. I stock shelves at a grocery store that opens at 6 a.m. and closes at midnight. No one there knows who I used to be. No one there knows how many people I helped ruin. They don't recognize me from the videos. The ones where I am, standing on a stage, arms wide, speaking like I had returned from the heavens. I told people pain was a gift. That suffering was their teacher. That doubt was ego trying to keep them small. I don't believe any of that now. I didn't even believe it then. They don't know I was one of the voices of the Path Collective, a self-help movement that was neither helpful nor harmless. A name now stained by death, lawsuits, missing persons reports, and 1,000 broken families. But before that, before the collapse in the press, I was just a man who wanted to feel important. Back then I was 26, broke, unemployed, freshly dumped, living in my older brother's basement, sleeping on a couch that smelled like regret. I was invisible, forgettable, angry in a way I didn't have words for. I had no savings, no degree, no idea what I was supposed to become. Just a dull ache in the gut and the low hum of dread. That's when I met Drew. He was a friend of a friend, spoke like he'd swallowed a TED Talk and sweat like a preacher. He invited me to a weekend retreat that promised clarity, transformation, and a chance to finally hear the truth beneath all the noise. I didn't believe him, but I had nothing else to do. So I went. That first event was theater. Everything choreographed to feel raw. There was dim lighting, a smell of incense and leather, carefully timed applause, music that built like a heartbeat. People screamed. People collapsed in each other's arms. One guy stripped off his shirt and said he forgave his father. A woman in her 60s screamed until she vomited, and they called it a breakthrough. They told us this wasn't therapy. This was activation. They called it the path. Not a religion, not a program. Just a return to what we already were before the world poisoned us. It sounded like garbage, but it felt real. I left that weekend feeling high. I hadn't spoken up, hadn't shared, but I watched. I watched how people wept, how they followed, how they craved permission to let go. And I wondered, could I be like the ones on stage? A week later, I signed up for their volunteer training. I paid nothing, but gave everything: time, loyalty, silence. They trained us to mirror, to break state, to interrupt shame patterns. None of it was licensed, none of it legal, but it worked in the way a fire warms you right before it burns. After 6 months, they told me I had a gift. They said I had magnetic grounding energy. What they meant was, I was good at lying with conviction. I became a conduit, their term for a recruiter, guide, facilitator. My job was to bring people in, convince them they were incomplete, then sell them the cure. I told myself it was okay, because I wasn't stealing money, I wasn't assaulting anyone, I wasn't doing anything really, except talking. That's what I clung to. I'm just talking. But words can be weapons when people are desperate, and the people who came to us were desperate. One woman sold her car and slept in her sister's garage so she could attend a 21-day initiation. One teenage boy convinced his mother to let him drop out of school to become a full-time Path member. I remember his name, Logan. He had this spark in his eye, and it dimmed a little every time we told him he wasn't yet free. He thought he had to break himself to be reborn. We encouraged that. I remember another woman, Rachel. Her daughter had anxiety and self-harmed. She begged us to help. We told her not to see a psychiatrist, that medication was shame suppression. I said that to her face. She trusted me. I don't know what happened to them. I never heard from her again. I pray they got out. I doubt they did. I kept a list of every person I brought in. 287 names. Some came back. Some never left. Some vanished into silence. Every time I spoke at an event, I could feel this tug. Not guilt exactly, but a kind of nausea. I'd look into the crowd and wonder who would lose everything because I said the right words in the wrong way. But the applause was louder than the nausea. For a while. Eventually, there were rumors. A young woman collapsed during a 7-day fasting retreat. Another was hospitalized after being encouraged to quit her meds. A man died. Cardiac arrest, they said, but no one investigated. I told myself it wasn't my fault. I wasn't the one giving the orders. I wasn't the founder. I was just a voice. But I was the voice. I was the one who convinced them to walk in. Everything changed when Theo showed up. He was different, quiet, smart, skeptical. He asked questions, not loudly, just enough to make us uncomfortable. He started recording sessions, taking notes. Within 3 months, he exposed everything to a journalist. He saved people, I didn't. When the article dropped, we scattered. The IRS got involved. Class action suits. Some leaders were arrested. I wasn't one of them. I wasn't technically on the payroll, just a volunteer with a mic. But my face was in every video, my voice in every promo, my words quoted in thousands of notebooks and journals and private recordings. I moved, changed cities, changed jobs, got off the internet, started over. Except you don't get to really start over when you've helped destroy lives. One day a former member found me, Samuel. I remembered him. He'd come to 5 retreats, brought his sister, gave up a scholarship. He looked older now, tired, but calm. He said, "I forgive you, but I don't think you should ever forget." Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You didn't believe it. That's what makes it worse." And he was right. I didn't believe, I just needed to feel like I mattered. You know what the worst part is? Sometimes I still miss it. I miss the stage, the feeling of being listened to, of being seen, even if it was all for a lie. That scares me, because it means the part of me that let all this happen is still here. People still gather in online forums and dusty living rooms to talk about the path. Some still believe it was real, some try to restart it. They even quote me. I want to scream, to tell them it was never real, but I know they wouldn't listen, because I know how badly people want to believe in something when everything else feels meaningless. I tell myself that this story, this confession, is my penance. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect to be heard. I just want someone to pause, to hesitate, to ask the question I never asked myself until it was too late. Why am I doing this? If you're out there and you're standing on a stage, or behind a podium, or at the head of some healing space, and something inside you feels off, listen to it. That's not fear. That's your conscience begging to be heard before it goes silent. I lived it wrong, and I can't undo it, but maybe you still can.